Doctor's Clinic with Doc Fizz and Friends. And every Tuesday we hop on here at noon Eastern time and bring what we feel is relevant health information for people, and maybe some information that would actually help you in your quest to become healthy, stay healthy, live longer, that kind of thing. So you can always, join us. And if you do see this video, like after the fact, somebody shares it, or you happen to see it posted on someone's social media, and you haven't been invited to Doctor's Clinic, Doc Fizz with Friends, just ask that person to invite you. I'm sure that they will go ahead and do that for you. So welcome to the call, Doc.
Hey, welcome to the call, Andrea. Thanks for being here every Tuesday. I appreciate. You know, when I was down in Australia, it was nice to know that I didn't have to worry about are the calls being put on the internet. They're here.
Well, I did my best. It was challenging, but I did my best.
That's right. That's right.
We had some great conversations that month too, last month.
Yeah. Oh, Dr. Lucky seems so knowledgeable.
He is. And, I'm hoping that the two of you will get on here and do a little convo together and just share, let people hear you pick each other's brains. I think that will be really interesting.
Yeah. Did you listen to the call last Friday? Katie and I interviewed Monica. She's a clinical nutritionalist. She wrote a book on sugar addiction. Did you listen to that? It's
great to bring professionals in like that, to hear that kind of information, so that we're bringing this kind of information to people every week. It's great.
That's right. She talked about the fact that we raise our kids so young to be addicted to sugar, and then they get addicted to harder and harder drugs. But the reason I bring that up, Andrew, is because as I'm reading more and more about the cannabinoid system, folks, hey, I have to say, this isn't about cannibalism.
Yeah, he liked to trick you with that one.
Oh, I just thought they were so close because I'm trying to write endocannabinoid, and my computer spell check is trying to write cannibals.
Yeah, and it won't recognize that name either. Like when you go to type it in, it'll try to change it to anything else except endocannabinoid and cannabinoid.
Yeah, it wants to talk about cannibalism. And the thing about cannibalism is that, most cannibals don't like to eat Americans anyhow.
That's true.
We're too toxic.
Actually, the people who do eat other humans, they get a disease from doing that.
Mad cow disease.
Well, it's similar to that, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's the same thing except in humans. But Andrea, as we talk about cannibals and cannibalism and endocannabinoids and CBD, THC, and things like that, I remember way back in the 1970s. You probably do too. That
you do.
There was a group of hippies that used to say, "Oh, it should be legal. It should be legal," right? And here we are. It's being legalized.
Yeah. Well, in Michigan in November, they legalized people to have a personal amount of possessed marijuana. And we're not really talking about marijuana today, although there are benefits to the marijuana plant. But, we're talking about CBD. It's a little bit different than that.
But, we look back in history and look back to like way back in the days of George Washington. I mean, it was mandatory that farmers had to grow hemp as a food source.
Yeah,
mandatory.
Hemp is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. My personal belief is that if all these tobacco farmers would start growing hemp, we would have a whole lot less health crisis. It's a renewable resource. It grows, they cut it. It grows, they cut it. It's not like waiting for trees to grow.
It's a weed.
You can make paper out of it. You can make clothing. You can make bags to carry your groceries. You can make insulation for houses. I mean, I want a hemp house. I want to build a total hemp house.
The house of weed. That's what you want, huh?
Well, hemp anyway.
But I was looking at that, and I was just like you just said. You can make paper, and you can make clothing, and medicinal properties for it. And you have to wonder if there's so many beneficial things to it. I mean, why did they make it so illegal? Why is it so controlled?
You know why?
Money.
Money, yes, because that was when certain families in our country were coming out with the railroad system, and they were coming out with oil industry. And, you know, you can use hemp for energy.
For fuel.
So, for fuel. And so they were suppressing that. You know, it also has been used for thousands of years medicinally. And it had some great properties that were used for thousands of years. And they were suppressing that information too. You know, because you can't take a natural substance and patent it and make a lot of money on it.
Just well, that's the bad part. I mean, I need to throw in this little comment. The bad part is that now they're patenting the extracts. There's, I mean, what is it? 380 different extracts you can get from the hemp and the marijuana plant.
Well, this is the really cool part. You know, we always talk on here about how all our systems are interrelated. Well, think about that. I mean, if we were designed to be that way, plants were designed to be that way, right? So there's about close to 500 different substances, some of them very minute, in the cannabinoids, cannabinols. What is that other term they use?
Cannabinols, yeah.
Yeah, cannabinols. And interactively, they do all this wonderful stuff. And they kind of depend on each other to do that. Mm-hmm. You know, so you can't just extract one thing out and
it all works together.
Twist it up and then put a label on it and say it's going to do what the natural product is, you know. And yeah, basically all the substances that we use are plant-based, you know. Everything you and I do for health, it's all plant-based. It's coming from plants.
Well, you know, and the whole thing, even with the THC, because that's the one that, you know, is the get high, you know, that kind of thing, the one that's abused, right? The thing about it is, if it's controlled and used in a responsible manner, mm-hmm. even THC is healthy.
Oh yeah, you know, I mean, that conversation's been going on for absolutely years. It was like early 90s when I went back to college. And
yeah, but you were doing this. Here you go.
No, not in the 90s. Not in the 90s. So I can remember a conversation way back then about people using actual marijuana if they were cancer patients to keep them from getting so sick, you know, and taking away pain. And so there was, even way back then, there was a real big legal conversation going on about, should it be legalized for people to use to help them get through that or not? You know, I think I probably even wrote a paper on it back then.
Right. Well, you know, I was reading about this, you know, in Israel, this Dr. Raphael McCallan, he's the one that discovered the THC receptors in the brain. And, you know, the thing that you have to look at, why is there a primary receptor in the brain, which means there's a cup, there's a place for the cannabinoids to go. Yep. Right? It goes in there. If you're not supposed to have it, then why do we have a primary cup for it to go in? And right, exactly. and so as we talk about this, you know, to me, I get a little bit upset at the whole big pharma, the way that they've, like you said, they've suppressed it. But we look at the words we've been talking about, endocannabinoids, right? Endocannabinoids. And so for folks that are just jumping in, and we're talking about the cannabinoid system in our body, but endocannabinoids, what they are is that's the ones your body makes. Your body actually makes.
Yes, it does.
Bioidentical cannabinoids that you get from hemp and marijuana. Bioidentical, which means they're identical. But what happens is, because we're adding too many of these other things, probably like sugar, and we're taking and we're dumping that into the receptor. Mm-hmm. Now what we do is we deplete the system of the of the ability to make the endocannabinoids. So now we create a deficiency.
Yeah, and they're actually, like, they've named that. You have a cannabinoid deficiency, and it changes up how your body's systems interact, communicate with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting, you know, and so I was looking at that, and the CBDs, they're actually what we call an adaptogen.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard of people talking about adaptogenic products, like a lot of mushrooms, a lot of extracts from mushrooms are considered to be adaptogenic, which means that your body uses them when it needs to use them, but it won't use them if it doesn't need to use them. So it comes in, your body uses what it needs, it gets rid of what it doesn't need. But it also, if you're deficient, what it does is it builds it back up. If you're too much, it takes it back down. So it's always working to get that balance. And our body runs on something called homeostasis.
Yes, it's all balanced, or should be.
Balance. The
Right.
yin and the yang.
Yeah.
The yin. What's the other names for that? Not just yin and yang. What are some of the other names?
I don't know, but we all had 7th grade science, and they talked about homeostasis in 7th grade science.
That's right. So
That it's a balance of health in the body.
So we're talking about the receptor in the brain. The receptor, the primary receptor for the cannabinoids in the brain. But there's another receptor that's found in the immune system. It's found in the spleen. It's found around the gut lining. It's found around the thymus gland. It's even found in the tonsils.
Yeah.
And so the cannabinoids have another receptor. So again, when you think about it, if we've known that there's these receptors for, well, let's say since the 80s, let's just say that that's when they first discovered it, which, this doctor in Israel discovered it then. Why for 30 years have we not moved forward?
It's the same thing. It's that suppression of information, and it brings so much health to the body, balancing the body and bringing so much health to the body. And we don't need to get into that, but there's that whole big conversation out there about suppressing health to keep us sick and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I was reading up on some of the medicinal benefits of the cannabinoids, right? And just kind of reading up on it, listening to a couple videos and that, they found that cannabinoids will actually cause apoptosis of cancer cells.
Isn't that amazing?
Would you explain to everybody what apoptosis of a cancer cell really is?
Well, basically, a cancer cell is, in your body, and you can put certain plant substances, which we've talked about before, certain substances in the body, and it will cause, what I love to say, an explosion of that cancer cell, killing it. It's like throwing a grenade at it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it causes the cancer cells to explode or implode. They actually implode upon themselves. Right. So it's not an explosion, but an implosion.
Okay.
But pretty cool.
I don't care how you get rid of it. Just get rid of it.
That's right. Explode, implode, it don't matter as long as you get rid of it. But the CBD versus the THC is that the CBDs don't get you high. They don't give that euphoric feeling. But they do find that it affects your brain behavior. It does affect moods. They find that it's a really good antidepressant. Isn't that cool?
Yes, and fantastic for anxiety. We don't talk about anxiety too much, but there are tons of people I've discovered out there who are dealing with anxiety on a daily basis. And I think it's part of that getting caught in the parasympathetic, that thing between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, and people get caught in parasympathetic, which is the fight or flight kind of syndrome. And it causes havoc in the body, and it creates anxiety. So
that's the sympathetic system, right? Yeah.
Sympathetic. Okay. And so when you help to take down the anxiety, so this is kind of like a whole circle thing, because the other information that you're probably going to talk about right now is it talks about balancing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. Balances it out so it kind of can kick you out of that because it brings circadian rhythm to your body, which is also important in getting rid of the wrong balance in your sympathetic system. So it all works together like almost everything, but anxiety. And 3 years ago, I actually, before I worked with Sizzle, I used CBD oil, and I also promoted CBD oil. And I had a lot of people, I saw a lot of information of people starting to use it, and they're like, my anxiety level is boom, down. Like, it mellows people out. It helps them. And it's not the THC, it's the cannabinoid receptors not being deficient.
Yeah.
Great for the brain.
I look at it and I go, okay, again, since the 1980s, so we're talking 30 years ago, 35 years ago, they've known about this. They've known that it helps with anxiety. They know that it helps with immune system challenges. They know that it helps with pain relief, these different things. Yet we go out there and we prescribe all of these opioids, that are just horrible. They're very addicting, and they kill you. I mean, we had so many deaths in the United States last year. We use more opioids than any other country. I read when I was on my way to Australia, I read in a magazine, they said that the United States consumes 80% of the opioids that are produced in the planet. 80%. Crazy. And you'd think that we'd look for something like this. Okay, so let's just even say that it is addicting. Let's just say that THC is addicting. Let's just say that it is. But isn't it safer than an opioid?
No, it's safer than anything synthetic, for sure.
You got that right. And so then you have to start looking, okay, so why are they forcing people to go out on the street and buy your medicinal property type of a plant extract? Why are they forcing it to buy it for some drug dealer on the street that you don't know what he's put in it, what's he laced it with, what's he sprayed it with, and making it a dangerous situation versus making it a safe situation?
Well, I think that you keep taking me back to a conversation that's going to make this get flagged on YouTube. So let's just let the people listen to what we have to say, and I'm sure they can figure that out.
That's right. But I mean, as I'm looking at it as a doctor, I'm going, wouldn't you want to have the safest thing that you could do? So, as I was listening to a video, they villainized it way back in 1937, even though they knew all these other properties for it. And they found out that I mean, we've been using it, or well, not we, but the world has been using it. Certain religions have been using it for thousands of years. And it's just amazing at what's out there. But you start looking at CBD. Let's just talk about CBD now. We're gonna take and we're gonna go from kind of giving you the history to now we're gonna fast forward till today. And they found that CBD has excellent pain qualities. You can take and give somebody CBD oil and you can decrease pain. I noticed after my motorcycle accident, they prescribed all of these opioids. I found that I could take CBD oil at the time, and it would actually help me with the pain better than any of the opioids.
And you can use that, in the mouth. You can also put it on site.
Yeah, mix it with an oil so it soaks in. There's essential oils right in the plant. Like Andrea is talking about, anti-anxiety properties, anti-anxiety. We're talking about cancer. We've talked about the apoptosis, right? And so we're not talking about any particular product. And so that's why we can make these type of statements, because we're talking about the oils in general. We're talking about the research on it. We're not naming any products, anything like that. So that's why we can kind of name these things. But they found that people who are undergoing like chemotherapy, It helps get rid of nauseousness.
Right.
Makes it so that their guts don't feel so upset, and make it so that these people can eat, sustain life.
Which is important because you have to have nutrition.
That's right. Seizures. I remember years ago, I heard about a certain type of CBD extract. It was called Charlotte's Web. Do you remember that one? Did you ever hear about that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Charlotte's Web was really one that had a lot of press on it because it was localized. They figured out, they isolated it, and they found that the CBD oil called Charlotte's Web was so beneficial. But now they've just found so many more.
Yeah, you see videos, like I get them on my news feed, and whatever you're interested in, and you go search in Google. Pretty soon Facebook will be showing you all that stuff on your news feed. So I do get information on CBD oil on my news feed from multiple sources, but maybe some of the other people here on the call have seen those cases where they have children who are having seizures, like 100 seizures a day, and they give them CBD oil and it eliminates almost all of them.
Yeah, that's what I was reading about. And
it's a great effect on the nervous system, obviously.
Exactly. Well, and then, diabetes, you take a look at type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, we, how many people have that? It's so rampant in our country. And now they're saying that it's starting to be a major disease over in China, and it's a major disease over in Australia and all these different places, diabetes. And that's because we're feeding people way too many carbohydrates, processed carbs, and it's just not good. When you take a look at the average person, what is it? 60-70% of their diet is made up of carbohydrates.
Right. Yeah. And it should be fats, in my opinion.
Yeah, it should be balanced out, right? Same thing that we're talking about. And then you look at leaky gut syndrome. CBD oil has been help with leaky gut syndrome and kind of close up those gaps, create that system. Combined with some other things, like the curcuminoids, right? Mm-hmm. So you have the endocannabinoids, and now you have the curcuminoids, right? The curcuminoids, of course, come from turmeric.
Right? Or
turmeric. How do you pronounce it?
Turmeric is how I say it, but I'm from Michigan, I say things differently than you do.
Yeah, I might say tomato.
Like last week I said fascia and you said fascia.
Right. But, so combining different things, right? Like they found that combining frankincense, which is another essential oil, with the turmeric, which is an essential oil, combined with the cannabinoid, which is an oil, right? Mm-hmm. CBD oil. And you start putting these things all together, all of a sudden, you have this synergistic system in the body that works. Yeah. And so we look at some of these things, and I know, folks, I mean, some of you are confused on it because it was illegal before, and here we are years later now. It's legal in certain states. You don't have to sneak off to Amsterdam like you did back 20 years ago, and right. And you start looking at it, but the body started using cannabinoids the day you were conceived.
Before. Well, yeah, the day you were conceived. Before.
Well, it couldn't be before.
Before you were born.
Before you were born.
Yeah.
Right on. So, I'm looking at the time, and we still got another 9 minutes to talk.
Well, so the bottom line is this, we talked about homeostasis. So a simple explanation is that we have these receptors all over our body, and we have a lack of cannabinoids in our diets today, and you can get cannabinoids from other plants too, but the best source is like through hemp. And so when you intake the cannabinoids, they go in and plug into these receptors all over your body and create, like you can go out and find some short videos on this, just go to YouTube and put in endocannabinoid system, and you'll get some really nice little videos to explain all of this. And I watched one this morning that was explaining the chemistry and the metabolic you know, region of the body, and how it releases certain things, like, calcium, things like that in it, and what these do to help that process. You know, so you can get really detailed like that, but you don't have to. Basically, we are hopefully living in homeostasis, a balance in our systems and our body. As far as I can see, the cannabinoid system helps us bring everything back to balance. So if your body's starting to get off kilter somewhere, if you're intaking cannabinoids, it goes in and plugs the receptors that need to be plugged and brings your body back into homeostasis. So it's a balancing of health, basically, wherever your body might need it.
Yeah.
And like I know several people who've used CBD oil for things. I actually had a relative who is, well, I think when he was doing, he was about 78 or 79, but had a real problem with his hip joint hurting a lot. And he could only mow his yard like in sections, like he'd have to take a break because his hip hurt. He'd go to the mailbox and get mail and come back, and his hip would, hurt him really bad from just doing that. He started using CBD oil, and within 2 weeks, his hip pain was so much better. Like he says, I can't believe it. I can go to the mailbox and back and my hip doesn't hurt, things like that. So, anxiety, I have a list of things here. I'll just call them up. Pain, we talked about, anxiety, cancer, nausea, seizures, cognitive function. It's great.
I forgot to talk about that. There's new research that says that, well, number one, it says that 1 in 2 people is going to have Alzheimer's, or they're going to be prone for getting Alzheimer's, right? Mm-hmm. So 1 in 2, that's 50% of us, I mean, and so they're showing like I know Andrew is going to bring up the study, but they're showing that these cannabinoids can actually help prevent that.
Yeah. So cognitive function, diabetes, it helps in diabetes. There was some video I saw, it was talking about like lack of this is actually part of the misfunction or dysfunction of the pancreas. So leaky gut, you brought up, and we, like a high percentage of us are subject to leaky gut. And then sleep issues. And I can tell you, when I started using CBD oil like 3 years ago, I slept like a baby. Like it was, and I guess it's because it affects that circadian rhythm, which is so important. And I just slept like a baby every night.
Right.
So, good. Let me see if I have.
Andrea, I'm just thinking, as we talk about the circadian rhythm, you remember the talk that we gave? Oh, what was it, in January? We talked about the circadian rhythm, not just the one that makes you sleep, but the one for the digestive system, the one for the brain for thinking and all that. Think about it, and I'm just kind of putting two and two together. When we're talking about the CBD affecting these different systems, but then we look back and we talk about that your body just doesn't have one circadian rhythm. It has multiple clocks.
And so maybe that's all intertwined with this whole endocannabinoid system.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's all working together. Maybe, and I've never read that. I just was sitting here thinking it as you were talking.
Yeah, I could see your little brain working away there.
The gears were ticking together.
Yeah. Yeah. As you discuss things like this and you have these kinds of conversations and you reflect back to other information you have, you can start making some pretty good, what I call them Andrea theories, but you might call them Doc Physics.
Yeah, we're going to call it physics.
Physics. I like that. Yeah, that's a good one.
Physics. Yeah.
F-I-Z-I-C-S.
Right on. But
Whoa.
the whole thing, Andrea, is it's really cool. I mean, you and I, we're not brain surgeons, we're not scientists, anything like that. But you start putting this in the hands of people that are really, really, really smart, people who know how to read the research and take the research and formulate products
mm-hmm.
that can truly change the lives of people.
Yeah.
Where can you go with it?
Oh, it's unlimited. As long as it's natural, plant-based, it's unlimited, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine up in Canada the other day. I was talking to Alan up there, and Alan said that one like 70% of companies, they produce a product that's in. I mean, it should be taken off the market. The manufacturer should be thrown in jail probably for ripping off the system. But that's what you have, is that you have these people that say, oh, we've got a product too, and they throw it out there, and they really don't have anything. The nice thing is that if you start doing some research, you're going to find products that really work.
Yeah, and that's really something I learned that's really important. Me, like if I get new information, I go out and research it until I'm researched it so much that, I'm worn out researching it. So like 3 years ago, I did huge research on CBD oil. And I learned that, some people, they go out and make it in their garage. But you got to worry about toxins, because some companies are using toxins to do the oil, and you don't want that in the product,
Right.
So you have to have a really good source of this oil. And it also has to be a particular particle size to be effective in the body, or it's like, I think it's glucosamate that people use for joints. And there's a lot of, yeah, there's a whole lot of that on the market, that the molecule is way too large to even do anything in your body, but they've got the name on there. People are buying it, so you have to look at particle size to know that it's going to be effective in the body. And so that's really important, to have a really good source. And, 3 years ago, when I joined this conversation, and didn't know much about it and started doing my research, there was not that much. There was information on YouTube. And I found an excellent documentary that was from, it was recorded from some seminar somebody did. And I had that, and I started sharing that because it was such good information. It was long, but it was really excellent information. They pulled that right off YouTube. I guess because it started getting shared, they pulled it off. But and I probably wasn't the only one sharing it. It was really good. But so in that conversation 3 years ago, there was hardly a lot of people doing anything with CBD oil.
That's right.
I mean, it was pretty much not talked about. It was kind of like anti-aging, 3 years ago, hardly anyone was talking about reverse aging, but now we're talking about that, so it was new. And so when I started doing that, I actually joined a club of people that were just learning about CBD oil, just like I was. And we had 45,000 people join that club in 2 months.
45,000 people.
So that tells you the interest level that there is.
It's a huge market.
Yeah, it is. You just want to make sure you're getting a good source of it.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, that I was just thinking as you were talking, out of 45,000, a lot of them were probably legitimate, looking for answers for health. Mm-hmm. And then there was a few people that were, looking for how can they call it medicinal, but they're doing it for more the recreational purposes, right?
I think they're doing it a little different than oil.
Right. So anyhow, Andrew, hey, we're at the bottom of the hour here, and what a great conversation. I think we ought to, maybe in a couple of weeks, bring this back up again. And as we know more, let's go do some more research, and maybe, maybe we ought to get a hold of somebody that's out in a state that's been using it legally for a while. I mean, there's a number of doctors out there that we could probably get on our call with us.
Yeah. And well, CBD oil from hemp, I think, is legal in all 50 states. So
no, there's 3 states that won't legalize it.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry for their luck.
Right.
But, so we've got 47 states that, have people that can utilize something like that. So that's great. Right. Big audience.
There you go. Okay. Well, Andrea, I'm going to let you close out the call. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. Get the word out, and let's figure out how to get healthy. That's
our goal here on Doctor's Clinic with Doc Fiz and Friends every Tuesday at noon. It's our goal to bring you pertinent information that can help you with your health. So tune in again next Tuesday. If you haven't been invited to that page, contact a friend where you saw this video or any other video we did, and ask them for an invite so that you can come in. And, you know, it's stored as a live on that page. So if you work during the day and you can't be here Tuesday at noon, you can just go into that page anytime and watch these videos and go back and watch past videos. So
that's right. All right. Well, thanks, Andrea. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.